Hello, ladies and gentlefolk. Welcome back to the Cannonbull Podcast. Today we are going to be talking about Supergirl. I've watched the movie, I've had thoughts about the movie, but something that I decided to do for this year video is actually just kind of explain why the movie didn't work for me personally, because I see that quite a few people think this movie is awful. I don't know why they would think it is awful, but I don't want that to be confused with me saying this movie is actually secretly great or something like that. I just kind of wanted to go over some of it. I'm not going to go through the movie in chronological order, so if you're expecting that, don't. But let's just give you what my number for the movie is. I think that this movie at best is a 5, at worst is probably like a 3 or a 4. Why I say a 3 or a 4 is not actually because it sucks. I say more so like, whatever this movie wanted to do, however this movie wanted to do that, I think it failed. I didn't ever find myself going, wow, this character's interesting, or man, this is so meaningful. Like, none of that. I just felt that I was watching And Then the movie, where here's Kara, and then this happens, and then this character says this, and then that happens, and then the villain shows up, then the villain leaves, then Kara decides to do a big shout, and then this happens, and then Ruthie's here, and then she somehow gets captured, and then this happens. That's the movie. It's not like a real movie. I don't think that there was like things that were happening in a way that made you feel like you were sitting here enjoying an experience. But let's actually get into it before I start rambling too much. So, to just explain the premise again, when I'm saying it's not like a real movie, I mean in the sense that I feel like this is what you would do if you were given a book that says how to make a movie, and then you open it and it says page 1, characters. A character should have a flaw, and so you get Supergirl, Kara, who is then like, oh, I'm drinking a lot, I'm partying a lot, I'm living a lifestyle that is self-destructive, right? And then, after that, the note would be, however, the character's flaw should not be something that alienates them from the audience. So then the person goes, okay, so I need to make her borderline alcoholic, I need to make her a party girl, but I need to also make her damaged in such a way that the audience doesn't feel like this is too uncomfortable. So I'm going to actually go with this too cool for school vibes. And so the person would then go on to then be like, okay, so the call to adventure must first be denied, declined. And so we have Kara being like, I'm not gonna get involved in this call to adventure that has just occurred right in front of me. And then it's going to be something where she can no longer decline that call to adventure, and she is now thrust into the story. And then we have that happen where Krem shows up and he shoots her dog with a poison, and then she kind of has to be part of the plot now. It just felt to me like I'm watching someone who's recently learned how to make a movie from a book, and they just translated that bar for bar, word for word into this movie that we then get. And why I'm saying all of this is because it doesn't feel amateur in a bad way. It's not a movie that you go, this is awful, at least not me. I see other people doing that, but it's not like I would go, this is awful. I'm also feel like I'm tugging at my own hair, going, no, why did you do it this way? There's no drama now. Why did you do this? Right? That's what I do. Because I'm like, oh, you told me this is a trait that Kara has. She cannot stand the sight of injustice. That's something that I should then see manifest within her actions within the story, but not really, right? It's not something. And the example I'm giving is when Ruthie shows up in the bar. She announces, I am Ruthie, I'm from this clan, here's a sword, and someone steals the sword from Ruthie, and Kara's like, hey man, you can't just steal things from a kid who's just had their family killed, right? And she's like not very jived with the idea that this alien stole Ruthie's sword, right? And something like that tells you something about the character, that oh, she cannot, even if she doesn't want to, right, even if she's reluctant about all of this, she cannot just stand the sight of injustice. If it happens in front of her, she won't just allow it to happen. But if injustice exists as a whole, whatever, right, Kara can sleep fine at night. So that's the impression you get, but the movie doesn't reflect that. You're wondering, but Mono, the entire point of the movie is that she helps Ruthie, right? Because that's the movie. To give you the summary of it is, Ruthie's parents is killed by the bad guy. His name is Krem. Krem kills her family. She then seeks revenge against Krem, and she needs someone to help her find Krem. Supergirl just so happens to be the person that Ruthie selects as her guide to finding Krem, because at this point in time, Ruthie doesn't know Supergirl has powers, and then the movie kind of ensues from there. After Krem steals Supergirl's ship, don't think that comes up again, I could be mistaken there, but regardless, Krem steals Supergirl's ship, and then Supergirl's dog gets poisoned by Krem. So Crypto is now on a timer. He has 72 hours before the poison in his system kills him, right? So now we find that Kara has skin in the game. She needs to be involved, but she's also indirectly helping Ruthie with her objectives. So how can I make the argument that Supergirl cannot stand the sight of injustice, but it's also not present in the film if it seems as though the main motivation for why she's here is get revenge against Krem for her dog, get her ship back, and also help Ruthie? Well, it's because there's quite a few instances within the story where injustice happens right in front of her and she doesn't seem to care at all. Right? It doesn't seem to be, it seems to be tangential to that. And I went to go and watch this movie with a couple of people just to get the opinions of normal moviegoers, people who aren't very in the know about superheroes and superhero culture and sort of the comic books and the history of these characters, just to see what they think and what they feel. And quite a lot of them got the impression that this feels more like, you know, a Guardians movie, but not in the sense of like the style and tone necessarily, and more so in the vibe of it doesn't give across strong superhero movie vibes, right? It's more, here's a protagonist, here's an antagonist, and some sci-fi elements are injected in every so often. There wasn't much heroism that was to be reaped from this movie, which I feel like it has to be the case, right? Because again, Kara, she sees quite a few instances of injustice in the story, but it's more like her main priority is something else. It's not, here's somebody in danger, here's someone who's been kidnapped, I should assist them. It's more like, okay, I've helped that person move away now, the movie can continue to happen. That's normally what it is framed as. And a lot of the times, it's also framed as if, throughout the course of the movie, let's say when she's on the bus with the tech pirates, that if she wasn't specifically targeted, she would have just let it be, right? As long as the bus is allowed to do whatever the bus is allowed to do. It's almost framed that way. Obviously, in context, that's not what's going to happen, because the tech pirates are trying to dismantle the entire space bus. So obviously Kara would be in a little bit of a pinch there, but regardless, it doesn't give across the impression that a lot of the things you learn about a character in one scene will carry over into the next scene. And it feels, because the movie and the writers were so fixated and focused on trying to achieve one thing, they completely forgot something else, which doesn't help this movie, because this movie is very scattershot, right? This movie is like a buddy cop movie. It's like a sci-fi revenge story, but it's also like a superhero movie and a movie about self-discovery, getting out of that rut, finding your new lease on life. Home is where the heart is what this movie wants to tell you it is about. But let's get into what it is actually doing, and again, why a lot of this doesn't work for me. To start, the movie actually begins with a montage to just get you into the life of Kara, right? She goes to bars, she's on planets with a red sun, and therefore her powers do not work, and she's then able to get drunk and just live life as a normal person instead of this superpowered demigod entity. And we get to see her hang out with Crypto, get hung over, and go to parties and drink. That is basically the cycle. But we start to get a lot of things already here in this montage that gets me to go, I get what this movie is going to be. It's going to be the kind of movie that has no teeth. It won't commit to bad things, but it will also argue that the good things are not good enough. What do I mean by this? What I mean is that you kind of get this impression that Kara is supposed to be showing us how self-destructive her lifestyle is, how she chooses to grieve through escapism and all kinds of things like that, and therefore she doesn't grow as a person or as a character, at least from the beginning of the movie, because we're supposed to set her down an arc where she overcomes these aspects at the beginning of the story. But here's the catch. The intro tries to more so depict her as being too cool for school. It doesn't show her lifestyle having an actual negative impact on her. It's not like she gets drunk and progressively she gets worse and worse, or she starts to experiment with more extreme ways of escapism, say, drug abuse or something to that effect. You don't get that. You don't get to see that the hangovers are really having a negative impact on her beyond the crooked glasses, messy hair, and messy mobile home style look of her ship, right? The interior of her ship is a mess, but none of these things seem to have any sort of negative impact on her. It's sort of just like her being borderline alcoholic doesn't affect her decision making throughout the course of the story. Her being depressed doesn't make her go, well, what's the point? Or none of that. She never says something that's like genuinely too mean, too jaded, or too cynical that she gets that recognition of, oh damn, I shouldn't have said that, bro, or anything like that. Or another character feels genuinely hurt by what she says. We have a moment that tries to do that, right? When she's talking to Ruthie and she says, oh, his heart is light and he didn't experience the things that I had to, or and then she cuts herself off because she wants to compare herself to Ruthie and saying that Ruthie isn't innocent anymore and, stuff like that. But that's not genuinely mean, right? That isn't like cynical to the extent that it would feel harmful when another person heard that. I don't think that Ruthie is under some illusion that she's innocent, right? So it just feels bizarre. But the movie then therefore lacks teeth, right? It doesn't want to give you commentary on the lifestyle that Kara is living. It's not trying to tell you, oh, look how bad this is and how she will improve throughout the course of the movie. It's more so just, well, here's a bad lifestyle, am I right? Or maybe it isn't, but she's going to stop doing this now because I've conveyed that she's the party girl, she's too cool for school, she's an alcoholic but not an alcoholic, and we will move on, right? It will never come up ever again throughout the course of the movie. It was just there as an introduction, and you will find that this happens quite often in the movie. Something is happening and you could reason why in universe it happens, but if you look at it just from a grander storytelling perspective, it's like, oh, I know why this happened. I'm being introduced to this, or this might be relevant to the theme at some point, or this is the save the cat moment. It feels like you can just open a how to write a screenplay or how to write a movie script or how to write a story. You could open one of those kinds of books and then find all the principles of those books in this movie, devoid of all characteristics, devoid of all kinds of drama. Because like I'm saying, Kara being a borderline alcoholic doesn't affect her arc, it doesn't affect her characterization, it doesn't affect what she does or why she does it in the movie. So there's no drama, it's just, here's her character flaws, now they don't matter anymore, let the story continue. Here is Ruthie, for example. Here is Ruthie's family. What an idyllic household, Here is Krem. He comes to the household and he is menacing because the music said he's menacing. So he sits down, he asks for a slice of pie. Isn't he quirky? Isn't he weird? He wants pie. Ha ha ha. And then he threatens them and they say, look man, if you want the swords, go and get them. And he goes, okay, cool. Ruthie's brother then does like a peekaboo. He tries to scare Ruthie, which causes Krem to catch a fright. And in his fright, Krem grabs his axe, accidentally throws it, or not accidentally, but like he assumes it's an enemy of some kind, and he kills her brother. Ruthie's mom and dad then proceed to attack Krem. Ruthie's dad triggers an explosive mine that blows up Krem's ship, and now Krem is stranded on this planet, and Krem kills the family. The house is burning to the ground, and Ruthie is now witness to all of this. At some point we cut away, and I suppose Krem and his men, they leave. I don't know what I'm supposed to draw from that, but they leave, and when we get to it, it will be important as to why I'm saying that I don't know what we are supposed to draw from this. But Krem and his men leave. Ruthie buries her family, takes the last, I guess, of her father's swords. It's also unclear if her father's swords were destroyed during this process or if Krem and his men did steal it. Because if they did steal it, where did they put it? Right? They don't have a ship to transport, and they did blow up, or Ruthie's dad blew up their home, because their house is on fire, right? But regardless, Krem and his men, they leave. Ruthie then buries her family, takes what I'm going to assume is the last of her father's swords, and then travels somewhere, because I think at this point it's still daytime. And then Kara is in a bar at night time, where Ruthie then arrives. She announces, I am Ruthie of this clan. My father is this person, and apparently her father's a very famous blacksmith, and his weapons and swords are very famous. Allegedly the kind of steel that they're made of is also pretty famous. And she says that she wants to find Creme of the Yellow Hills. She wants to kill Creme of the Yellow Hills. And once she kills Creme of the Yellow Hills, the sword that she used to kill him will then be used as payment for whoever guides her or assists her in killing and finding Creme of the Yellow Hills. Crypto has like this dog moment, right, where he's like, hey, yo, Kara, you can help. And then Kara's like, I'm not going to help this girl. I'm not going to get involved at all. Until one alien's like, interesting. And he steals Ruthie's sword. Kara then takes issue with this. This is supposed to be characterization. This is supposed to tell you something about who Kara Zor-El is. She's the kind of person who kind of shrugs at injustice. She's like, it happens all the time. So what? Your family died. Join the line. But it's also supposed to show us something about who she is. It's supposed to tell us that Kara is the kind of person that she knows about injustice. She's not naive enough to think it doesn't happen. But if it happens in front of her, she can't stand it, right? And that's why she gets involved here. The scene is also supposed to accomplish quite a bit. It's supposed to show us that Kara, even without her powers, would get involved when she sees something that is unjust from her perspective. It's also supposed to show us that Ruthie doesn't value someone because they seem to meet some sort of predetermined ideal of a hero or someone who can help her or a warrior of some kind. Ruthie sees this woman who is, for all intents and purposes, normal. I'll say that with a question mark because it's not clear how normal Kara is, even on a planet with a red sun. Because she beats up an alien that is way taller than her, and she tanks hits, we'll get to it, that seems to be like, this should be concerning, but it isn't, right? At least not to Kara. But Ruthie sees something in Kara that maybe Kara doesn't see inside herself. Ruthie doesn't know Kara is a Kryptonian. She doesn't know she's a superpowered individual. She just sees a woman who chose to help her, and for her that's more than enough, right? And that's supposed to tell you something, but it's not going to be explored in the course of this movie, even in the slightest. Regardless, so Kara gets into a fight with the alien who stole Ruthie's sword. And this guy is huge. He's massive. He's like the evil, imposing alien that you would sort of find in these kinds of stories. He's supposed to be the tall guy, the Goliath that David then slays, which Kara might have killed him, I'm not sure. But one thing that kind of stands out is that when he gets onto his alien horse creature, Kara does like a weird sort of Black Widow style flipping kick, drop kick that kicks this guy off of his horse. And I promise you, if you saw Black Widow doing this, you would go, oh hell no, she can't do that. What the heck? And Kara is supposed to not have powers in this state. There's nothing in the story that even indicates to us that Kara is supposed to be a particularly good or competent fighter, right? Like nothing. Like she will never do anything comparable to this maneuver right here. And it's impressive because she's supposedly really, really drunk and doesn't have her powers. But she's just doing crazy gymnastic style drop kicks. And she gets into a fight with this alien guy, gets stabbed in the leg. This will be relevant-ish later. And she gets her head knocked on the ground or gets punched in the head or something. But she notes basically, like, haha, look at that, I'm bleeding. Whoa, that's kind of crazy. And she's got like that kind of quirky Harley Quinn kind of vibe here. I don't know why this is the direction that people try to take with this specific style of character very often. The quirky Lamau character, right? That's so random. They like to do this where it's like, I'm misunderstood, but also I'm really quirky and like I'm your weird aunt. Like they try and do that approach. Like I'm the cool aunt. But regardless, she gets hit in the back of the head and she notes that she's bleeding, which is supposed to be like, oh, that's strange because that doesn't normally happen. This is important to me. Maybe it's not to you, but Kara is someone who for most of her life could bleed. She was human, she was mortal, Kryptonian, yeah, but like she never had powers up until she got to Earth, and arguably she's only been on Earth for maybe 3 years, and this movie seems to indicate she hasn't been on Earth for the full 3 years. So for her to kind of be like, oh wow, look at that, I'm bleeding, it shouldn't be the reaction that she has, because she's not like Clark, who's always known to that I've had powers. For her, this shouldn't be strange, it should be concerning, but the movie wants to argue to you that she appreciates the fact that she's bleeding, alright? She appreciates mortality more than her Kryptonian demigodhood because she likes to feel, right? It's better to feel normal than it is to be a god, but most of her life was spent being normal, and arguably most of her life on Argo was spent powerless while people around her died. So I don't know why she would desire normalcy, because to her normalcy is not escapism. It's the opposite of escapism. It's reminding of how powerless she was when everyone around her died. If she had her powers, she might have been able to save those people, move Argo to a different place, or anything else like that. But she seems to desire escapism because she's depressed, and she's depressed because she feels survivor's guilt, or she's grieving, and she's grieving because her people died and she was powerless, and so she wants to be powerless so that she can feel drunk. And because she wants to feel drunk, because where does that come from? Is there something that in her culture when she was on Argo that people got drunk often? And how does she then conclude that I need to then go to red sun planets so I can get drunk? It just feels like the chain there doesn't exist. It was, well, she needs to be depressed because she's depressed so that she can then go on an arc where at the end of the arc she isn't depressed. Speaking of that arc, we have Ruthie. Ruthie's arc is, I want to get revenge, and then by the end of the movie, maybe revenge isn't that cool. Maybe revenge isn't punk rock. Right? That's supposed to be her arc. How do we get there? Well, I mean, Kara tells her some, they trauma bond, right? I guess is what we're supposed to conclude. Kara tells her her tragic backstory, and Ruthie decides that because Clark exists, Superman, and he's hopeful and he sees the better in people, I'm guessing Ruthie decides that maybe there is something better to live for out there. And by the end of the movie, because of her journey with Kara, she concludes that, yeah, she shouldn't kill Krem because it's not worth it, because she will be ruined as a result of it. I don't know what in this movie causes her to get from I want revenge to I don't think revenge is going to solve my problems, other than a meta-awareness that revenge isn't the solution, right? Revenge stories that try and argue against revenge do this all the time. It's the beginning of the story, you want revenge, but revenge is bad. And at some point in the middle of the story, there will be a thing of, hey bro, have you ever considered revenge is bad? And in the end of the movie, the main character who wants to get revenge goes, you know what? I think revenge is bad. While they've gone through an entire journey to get the revenge, they decide at the final hour, the clock is about to strike 12, they decide, nah, actually I won't get revenge anymore. And then that's it. I don't know how we ever get there, but we are insisting as a movie-going audience that this is how things go, and it should be okay that we do it that way. But comparing that to Kara's journey, it's the exact same. Kara's I don't have a home, I'm lonely, I'm grieving, I'm searching for escapism by trying to, by desiring mortality and drunken parties, just to have that brief feeling of joy, right? To chase that one brief feeling of joy every so often. And then when the bad emotions come back, I go and seek out that brief moment of joy once again. She then goes on this journey with Ruthie, and they go to try and get revenge against Krem. You see, Krem stole Kara's ship and poisoned her dog. She has 72 hours before before Crypto dies from the poison, but luckily for her, Krem does have the cure. And so they go on a journey, right? It just so happens that Ruthie's goals and Kara's goals coincide. You're wondering, why did Krem steal Supergirl's ship? Well, you see, what happened was, after helping Ruthie get her sword back, Kara goes home, she gets stabbed in the leg in that fight with that alien, wakes up the next morning, her leg has got a spike in it, she removes the spike and now she has a limp. Ruthie has arrived. Ruthie's like, hey bro, you need to help me find Krem. And Kara's like, I'm not interested. Then Crypto needs to go and pee, I think, ? And so she takes the dog out to go and pee, and Krem shows up, he takes her ship, and because Kara's leg is injured, I guess, you're supposed to conclude that she couldn't run back to the ship to fight Krem then and there. But Crypto does chase after them. He gets shot with a poisonous tranquilizer dart thing, and now he has 72 hours to live. So now Kara has skin in the game. So the two of them go on their little journey. This movie is an and then movie, because Kara tells Ruthie to stay with her dog. The stranger, she doesn't know who this person is, but she tells Ruthie, stay with the dog, I'm gonna go after Krem. So she goes to the space bus stop, and she waits for the space bus. She then gets onto the space bus. We have some like wacky shenanigans. This movie feels like a lot of the times we have like almost extended versions of the cantina scene from A New Hope. It just feels like almost every scene is just trying to do that, where it's like, here's a cantina scene. Now there's a cantina scene in a bus. Then it's a cantina scene on another planet's bus stop, I guess. And then it's a cantina scene on another planet. And then we have a cantina scene on a ship. You know, it's just like, that's all that seems to happen between this movie, right? Because this movie is Kara and Ruthie go to a place. They get into a conflict with a character. They talk to some characters, fight scenes happen, fight scenes are resolved, they find information about where they need to go to next, they go to the next place, they find some characters, they get into conflict, they get into a fight, they get some information, they leave, they get into another location, they get some conflict, they get into a fight, they talk to some characters, new information, new location. That's all that happens in this entirety of the movie. From place to place, that's all that happens. We'll get into that, but the point is that Kara's journey is then going from her current state of affairs to then trying to find Krem. She gets onto a space bus. She then gets to a bus stop, gets off the bus stop, gets to another planet, gets to a bar. Asks, hey guys, I'm looking for Krem. He's a brigand. The people at the bar's like, I don't know. She gets into a fight. Lobo is there. Lobo leaves. She then gets told, well, there is actually a way we can get to the brigands. So she follows these people to go and find the brigands. These people betray her. She then goes and gets poisoned, then gets into a fight with the brigands, gets into a fight with Krem, has to drink some milk to get rid of the venom or the poison that she drank. Ruthie then tries to kill Krem. It doesn't go out very well because Kara interferes, I guess. And then Krem kills the family that betrayed Kara. Kara has a big scream in space, comes back down, talks to an alien, says, hey man, I want to find the brigands. He says, okay, fine, I'll help you find the brigands. And he puts a bag on her head. They get into a space bus. They go to the brigands planet, and it's got a yellow sun. Nice. Actually, no, the yellow sun went down. It's a green sun now. Kara's being poisoned because, you know, green suns are like kryptonite. That's something that the comics just decided is a thing. It's like one of the lamest ideas ever, but it's just something the comics did. You know why? Because kryptonite is green, right? So a sun is also that's green would be like kryptonite. We have decided. We have reasoned. It's just like, alright, cool, man. Sure. That's what you've decided. And so she's dying, but Ruthie's there. So Ruthie helps her and brings her Supergirl suit. And then she gets captured by Krem's people. And Lobo's also been captured for some reason. Then some shenanigans ensue on Krem's ship. And Supergirl shows up, fights Krem, breaks his spine, beats up the rest of the brigands, and then Ruthie decides, I'm going to kill Krem. And basically Kara begs her, look, I'm not going to try and stop you, but I believe you won't do it. Ruthie says, okay, fine, I won't do it. And then Kara decides to kill him instead. She goes, this is for my dog, and this is for that girl's family. And the movie is basically done. Kara goes home to Earth and tells Superman, Clark Kent, hey man, I'm gonna try and make this Earth thing work out a little bit. That is the story. You might have noticed, hey Mano, how does any of these stories that you've just explained to me change Kara's personality, her outlook, or anything else like that? Why is she different from the beginning of the movie to the end of the movie? Well, you see, the movie has happened, the runtime has concluded, and therefore she has gone on an arc. What's that arc? Home is where the heart is. So it's like, okay, so how does this movie question home being where the heart is? That's a very good question. There's no answer that you will find in this movie that I can discern. But it's not because this movie is incompetent. It's because this movie is very fixated on trying to just be very paint by numbers. It's almost like it's going through that checklist. Revenge is bad. Check. Characters argue. Check. Second act low point. Check. You know, that's all the movie is attempting to do. And because of that, it's very boring. I was like Homelander. That Homelander meme was in the cinema. That was me watching this movie because I was just like, oh, that's what you wanted to do? And then this happens. Oh, that's all you wanted to accomplish? And then this happens. Alright, bro, bet. And I'm not even really leaving out that much about the plot. Let's go back a little bit, right? Let's go all the way back to the bus. She gets on a space bus. And Ruthie appears, and she rolls her eyes. And we have like a scene where there's a guy smoking on the space bus. There's another guy who's like fidgeting with some things. And it seems to be like they're trying to give you this air of this is a very alien world, this is a very alien place. We're gonna get to one of the problems that I have with the movie now. This movie doesn't feel very alien to me, right? I know I said it feels like every scene is trying to be the cantina scene, right? But it doesn't feel like it's alien. For example, Kara doesn't seem to talk, act, or even give you the impression that she isn't from Earth, except for telling you outright with words, I'm not from Earth, or, Earth isn't my home. But the way she talks, the way she interacts, her sense of common sense is very Earth adjacent. For example, when she's on the space bus, there's a guy sitting next to her, and there is this assumption from Kara that he might not be able to understand her because she's speaking, is it common or basic? It's one of the two. I get this confused because almost all fiction has decided that the English language is common and or basic, and it will just depend on which universe you're in that it will be either common or basic. But that's the universal language which we will interpret as English, right? And so there's this impression that she's kind of trying to figure out if the guy next to her understands common and or basic. Let's just call it basic. And he's like, what, you think I'm an idiot? Right? And it's supposed to be like, haha, funny, because like most of the aliens that she's seen or interacted with up until now haven't actually spoken basic, right? Like the one alien, for example, that she got into a fight with, who stole Ruthie's sword. That guy was going, blah, 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 blah. And she was like, oh yeah, this, and this. And he goes, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you think I'm talking too much? Okay, fine. And then they get into a fight, right? So it's like, everybody understands each other until they don't understand each other. And that's supposed to be the joke here, I guess, right? Because when she gets onto the bus driver says something, and there's this tiny little guy with a deep voice, and Lamau, haha, because it's a tiny alien and he's cute, but he has like a deep voice, and he translates, right, for the bus driver. And it's supposed to be like, okay, there you get it, right? She didn't understand the bus driver, but she understands this guy. And then that kind of plays out. But here's where the whiplash kicks in. Because when Ruthie arrives, she puts her luggage between her legs, according to what Kara says. And this, in that alien's culture and language, means that you're calling their mother a prostitute or something to that effect. And that offended this alien, so this alien wanted to like fight with Ruthie or something. And so Kara shows up like rolling her eyes like, ugh, this kid, bro, she's so stupid, this is so obvious. And so she does like a weird like a shriek or something like that, and then that alien's like, oh my bad, bro, big misunderstanding. In that shrieking, like it shrieks back at her and goes back to its seat. And she explains to Ruthie as if it's the most obvious thing in the world, you put your luggage between your legs, which tells her that her mom is a whore, something to that effect, right? And I sat there going, Ruthie has no luggage, what are you talking about? What luggage does she have? She has a sword. Maybe I missed it. But she doesn't have luggage as far as I can tell. So I was like, what? But what gave me further whiplash was, oh, Kara just knows this weird alien language? Why? Why does she know this alien's language and its customs? Where did that come from? So that's the secondary problem when it comes now to everyone is basically a human. On top of that, we have everything is in the backyard of the universe. Everybody knows everybody. Everything is common sense until everything isn't common sense. An example of this. We have a bunch of tech pirates invade the ship. You know what happens afterwards? These tech pirates just so happen to know where the brigands might be. This is fascinating because now you gotta ask yourself, Kara's dog was poisoned by Creme of the Yellow Hills. Kara is now on a mission to go and find Creme of the Yellow Hills. What is her plan? She's gonna get on a space bus. Okay, then what? Nothing else. There's no plan. Like literally, she doesn't know what she's doing. She has no leads until the tech pirates arrive. And the tech pirates know exactly where Creme of the Yellow Hills might be. And so she goes to that planet where Creme is. Luckily, it's a yellow sun planet, by the way. It's not like an inconvenient other kind of sun, like a green one or a red one. It's nice that it's a yellow sun planet. And they go there. And lo and behold, Lobo is also there. And they find the first bar that I guess they went to. The people there might know the brigands. And so we kind of now get the main plot unfolding. And Creme shows up. He's like, oogly boogly, oogly boogly, oogly boogly. And then he leaves. And then that's it. That's Creme's role in this entire movie. At one point, while they're on this planet where they I forget the name of the planet. Let's call it Planet 2. Planet 1 is where the story starts. Planet 2 is after the space bus, right? While they're on Planet 2, they tell us that Krem has the strength of like 1,000 men, and he has a tank dropped on him and then tossed aside. He just casually catches a tank and throws it to the side with one hand. He's got super strength. That is irrelevant. It never comes up in the entirety of the movie because Krem doesn't even get into one actual fight. Never. Not even once. A lot of the times he's grabbing people, shooting them with crossbows, stabbing them with swords or stuff, but it's not a fight. Or if it is played out as a fight, it's with someone who is vastly weaker than him, even if he didn't have super strength. It's just like one of those things that, why did you do this? Oh, I know, it's because the villain needs to be a threat. And to add on to this, here we get to a problem, right? Talking about Krem now, because I'm gonna just ramble, right? Krem is supposed to be the bad guy of the story. We seem to see that he is like a very bad dude. He likes to kill. Like, it seems to like give him genuine like joy, like the thrill of killing people. But he also seems to be like an okay guy. Like the movie, when it introduces us to him, it seems to almost insinuate that if the string of events that played out, which is Ruthie's brother jump scaring her, if that never happened, Krem would just take the swords and leave. Why do I say this? Because Ruthie's parents were, that's what they thought, that's what they assumed. They said, look, here's the swords, take it and leave. Before that, they said, he is coming for my swords, then we shall give it to him and he will leave. That's what we get told. And it seems as though, for all intents and purposes, that was what's going to happen. Because later on, there's a family, they own a bar. And they betray Kara. They poison her and she drinks milk. But because she's on a yellow sun, the poison doesn't work. Krem sees that the poison doesn't work as intended and he tells the bar owners, she doesn't look very poisoned. A deal was a deal. Something to that effect. He's implying that he was going to give them back their daughter because Krem and his group of male pirate brigands, they kidnap children, specifically little girls, to breed, to continue and sustain their alien species. This is whoa, I don't even know, bro. This is massive news. This is a whopper of information. If he was bad before for killing Ruthie's family, this should shoot him up to the scale of this guy should not be allowed to live. Movie doesn't acknowledge this, but regardless, that put to one side, let's pretend that he's as bad as this movie seems to assume he is. Not that he's like some sort of sex trafficker, but that he's just a bad guy who sometimes kidnaps the good old child, right? He seems to have wanted to hold up his end of the deal because he brought them their daughter and only decided, no, she's going to die now because you guys didn't do the job properly. I don't know why they did this, to try and present him as if he was going to uphold his end of the bargain. You would assume that they would just want to make him like a bastard and leave it at that. But it doesn't seem that way, right? And he just insists on not killing Ruthie, for example. I'm not sure why, but the movie has that conflict of interest now because he is a human trafficker. He's a trafficker, right? He kidnaps little girls so that he can breed them. And not Ruthie, not Kara, not anybody goes, "Aye, look bro, maybe we were gonna arrest him before, but this new piece of information changes things a little bit. We might have to just, relieve him of his head or something, Like that's not even like a possibility. That's not an argument. That's not a debate, nothing, right? And that's what I mean when I'm saying that this movie sort of has this very checklist kind of approach. There's no drama when you get introduced to new information. There's no drama when a character decides to do one thing over another. Kara's actions in stopping Ruthie indirectly gets the family that betrayed her killed by Krem. I believe it's the little girl. I believe it is the mother and the father, the bar owners. They get killed by Krem, if I'm not mistaken. And Ruthie blames Kara. Now, I don't know what that scene is supposed to try and tell us. Was that scene where Kara interferes with Ruthie killing Krem supposed to indicate to us that Ruthie wasn't going to be able to kill Krem? Or was it an indication that she had the kill shot on him, but Kara stopped it from happening. I don't know, because that will then determine what you feel about then the follow-up scene where Ruthie blames Kara. You might then be on Ruthie's side saying, yeah, that is Kara's fault. Or you might go, no, I don't think that that's Kara's fault. You're a kid, you weren't going to kill Krem, strength of 1,000 men. But Kara goes to fly to space and she has a big shout, nah, into the void. You don't hear anything, right? But the point is supposed to be that she's so shook and so frustrated by that. It never comes up ever again. It's just bizarre the way that they chose to present us with this movie. And for all these reasons, a lot of it doesn't work for me, right? Like, all of what I'm telling you right now is that the movie seems to go one way. You assume that this is supposed to be important. It isn't. Why is Krem doing anything that he does? It doesn't matter, right? He's just the antagonist. He's the guy that needs to be killed by the end, right? Why does anything of this story, for example, with Kara being close to death, what about that motivates her to then put on the super suit? Your guess is as good as mine. You could say, oh, it's because she decided that she wants to embody hope. When she lost all hope, suddenly the sun rose and she didn't die when she thought she would. And so she wanted to embody that hope. Yeah, I guess that's an interpretation. My interpretation is she put on the suit because it's the end of the movie. I've watched enough Marvel projects to know that when we get to around the third act, we're gonna get like this suit up scene where the character puts on a costume and goes out and does something. Sometimes if it's a show, it's like the very last episode. They get their suit up, they then assume the identity of the superhero that you know and love, and they wear their costume. That's what I viewed it as, because the meta, unfortunately, is more appealing than what the movie would try and argue, because there's nothing in the movie that's actually there to argue about. She's dying, she's not dying anymore, there's a suit that's present, and she puts it on. Movie concludes, she goes to Earth, she decides home is where the heart is, question mark, question mark. I'm not sure when she gets a ship back, by the way. I don't know if I just like checked out at the movie at that point, so I was like, I don't care what's happening, I don't care why it's happening. Oh, this happened? Might as well. That's what I started to get to, right? Oh, Lobo's in prison now? Okay, sure, why not? How did he get here? I don't care. Whatever, right? And it's like, oh, the sun just came up. Kara's not dying anymore. Alright, bet. Whatever, man. And it's like, oh, Krem has Kryptonian crossbow bolts. Might as well. Who cares, bro? Whatever. And that was why the movie just didn't work for me. This ended up being a lot longer than I assumed it would be. But I mean, whatever. If you guys find yourself watching this movie and you go, this movie was awful, it was terrible, or even this movie was great, I'm more interested if it was terrible for you. I would really like to know what was so terrible about it, because I'm so numb. I felt nothing, bro. I know I said it's like a 3 or 4 out of 10. I get that, and that must mean it's awful. But it's more so like, this movie is not worthwhile. It has no worth. Not it's bad. It's more so just like, why would you watch this movie and why would you recommend this movie to anyone? Not, oh, this was so awful, I wanted to dig my eyes out. It's just like, yeah, I was kind of just numb. I don't care. So I don't know if for you that means it is an awful movie, but I would like to hear why it's an awful movie from your perspective, because I've seen people have very strong emotions about the movie. Mine are not that strong. I just kind of felt like this movie could have been so much better, but I think it's partly as well a problem with the source material. I don't think the source material dives into the subject matter, the character, the story as well. So the movie, when it's adapting it, inherits all of its weaknesses. I don't know, I might go and give Woman of Tomorrow a read, but I highly doubt Woman of Tomorrow would answer questions like, why is Kara behaving the way that she does in this book, as opposed to just telling us she is depressed, she is lonely, and this will be a book going into that. I find it very difficult to believe that there would be anything that explains the motivations for how we got here, as opposed to just, let's say, for example, she was already here. How do we take it from there? And that's fine, but it means that this movie suffers as a result as well. That's my suspicion. If you think that I'm wrong, if you think that I'm missing the larger point, do tell me. I would like some motivation to at least find something good about this kind of depiction of Kara, because I'm not actually a fan of this version of the Supergirl character. I don't think it's very worthwhile. I think it tries to do the Oppression Olympics thing too much of, oh, but my trauma is bigger than yours kind of vibe, that some of these stories try and do. Jason Todd sometimes falls into this category as well, right? There's like, oh, you guys seem to have trauma, but mine is the biggest. I'm way more damaged than you guys when talking about the Bat family, right? Comics does have the habit of doing that, where you have a character that's derivative of another character. Oftentimes, there's this compulsion to try and argue that one character secretly has it way worse than another. I mean, even the She-Hulk MCU TV show or series did that, where she's arguing to Bruce that she's infinitely more angry than him. Say what you want about the scene, I don't care, right? I'm also just trying to present that this seems to be a trend, that there's some compulsion to argue one character being derivative of another. They need to argue why their life is harder, way worse, or why their powers are better than the original characters. And I don't know if that's just like a sign of like a insecurity there, but I'm not very interested or invested in those types of stories, because it feels to me like we're overcompensating for something. I've been Mono, and this is the Cannonbull Podcast. If you find yourself enjoying stuff, watch more of our videos and things. Anyway, bye.